You know, when I thought it was all over with 4 years ago, I get a call. I'm like, yeah, what? This is Rolling Stone magazine. I'm like, shut the front door, Rolling Stone magazine. They said, did you really challenge the country music industry in the New York Times? I said, well, why not? They said, ma'am, we heard that you had black country music showcases. We would love to have been there for that. And I said, well, it just sounds like country music. It just happened to be black people singing it. And they said, we just can't imagine it. They said, we would just love to have seen it. I said, you can see it. And they said, how? I said, I filmed everything. They said, no, you didn't. I said, yes, I did. Okay, I said, I will send you some CDs of the live shows while I'm bouncing it over to DVDs. Guess what they called me and said? Okay, Frankie, are these people black? I said, yes. And they said, okay, Frank, we have to see it come out their mouth because they didn't believe it, right?
Did a fancy western swing in his tight-fitting jeans. He danced across the stage the way that he moved.
On February the 16th, 1997, Frankie Staton co-hosted a showcase of country artists at the Bluebird Cafe. Nothing unusual about that. We're in Nashville, after all. But the fact that the artists were all black, well, as you just heard her say, that was too much for some people to believe.
I reached from deep beneath the daisy dirt, where all my people still reside and work, and I was raised right to have respect.
The other co-host that night was Cleve Francis, who teamed up with Frankie to put on the showcase. Here he is with the song Love Light.
Loved each other, thought they had it all together. Then something happened to all their good times. Somehow their laughter turned into crying times.
This night was just the beginning. The BCMA, Black Country Music Association as it became known, went on to hold showcases all over the city in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. Their message was pretty straightforward. We're here, we're black, and we play country music. Here's Frankie on that first night in 1997.
It was my idea to have the first ever Black Country Music Showcase. I read an article in the New York Times, November the 3rd, 1996, that said, has country music become a soundtrack for white flight? And I've been here 16 years and I've seen a lot of African-American country music artists come and go. And I know that while we are stereotyped as people who typically love gospel, rhythm and blues and jazz, we also love, write, sing, and perform. Country music is near and dear to our heart. And I think we have a rich heritage.
Frankie also took the stage to perform that night. And while her dream of true equity in the country music world hasn't come true yet, a new generation has come along. A generation that draws inspiration directly from the work of the Black Country Music Association. You may have seen her in documentaries or seen her quoted in stories. And in spite of all the adversity she's faced, that hasn't stopped her from singing ever since. I'm Demetria Kalodimos. It's Banner and Company.
And word gets back, you can't hide anything from this town. They make it their business to pass it around. They know where you've been. They know who you.
The Black Country Music Association.
Right.
Tell me the story. And I once interviewed Dr. Cleve Francis.
Oh, yeah.
A cardiologist who had a heart for country music and a lot of talent.
Absolutely.
So when did you guys get together?
Well, I met Cleve at a Warner Brothers a Black History Month program. And he walked past me and I said, I need to talk to you. And, you know, he's like, well, who are you? You're nobody. And I was just at the point, I knew that I was not the only black person that was being treated the way I was being treated. And I said, you know what, if they're talking to me the way they're talking to me, they're doing it to everybody else. I just kind of said, you know something, y'all? We need to challenge this. You know, and my favorite place in Nashville always has been, always will be the Bluebird. And I'd sung there many times, and I went and asked Amy, I said, Amy, what do you think, about me doing this? I want to do it during Black History Month. This was November of 1996. She said, everybody else sing here, why not y'all? And I organized, I thought in my mind, okay, the music has to be as good as the music that comes out of Nashville. The singer has to be as good as the singers in Nashville. The band has to be A players that can read charts. So from there is when I started figuring out how to put it together. My mantra has always been to educate as well as entertain. Because for people who go, well, why are you doing country music? It's because they don't understand. They don't understand our contribution to the country music industry. So you have to teach them why you sing the music for them. And so I had a girl get up and tell the whole history of the African-American contribution to country music through each act. I knew that nobody knew how important it was to me and how hard I was going to work. And I thought I was going to fall out that night. I really did. We were live on WSMV on 6 o'clock news. I had been up at WSMV at 6 a.m. in the morning. I had been on Talk of the Town at 11 o'clock that morning. And so I had been on radio stations and doing newspaper interviews, and I knew it was going to be crazy. I responded to a story in the New York News and Record. I don't know if you've seen it or not. That said, why don't you have more diversity in the country music? All these label heads here said, oh, we look for black people, we can't find them. I'm like, Jesus. So I called them and said, come to Nashville. I will show you the black country talent. And they did. Actually, the New York Times music critic came down here. Okay, he didn't believe it was real. So he called me and said, where are you rehearsing? I said, he doesn't believe it. He does. He thinks this is fake, right? I got a sister out of Pleasant View, Tennessee. She's born in Ashland City. That's where she taught. It's so nice to meet you. How you doing today there, daughter Lynn? He looked at her and he said, I said, go over there and talk to her. He said, ma'am, can I take your picture? And then I had these guys that I grew up with in North Carolina that hung out at Level Cross, Richard Petty's house. One of them lived across the street from Cal Petty, race cars and rodeos. Bye-bye, be over there at the barn. What y'all over there doing? Somebody called my house and said, who that redneck answered the phone? I said, that's a brother. Shut up. I said, that's a brother.
So who was on your bill at that showcase, and did anyone go places? Or did it kind of just stop?
Valerie, the girl from Ashland City.
Valerie Ellis Hawkins you're talking about.
Was coming off of a developmental deal from Warner Brothers. Her mother was cleaning up for the fan club of Randy Travis. She went somewhere, they were playing Randy. She came back home, Valerie's mother put Valerie on the CD player. And she said, who is that? And she said, that's my daughter. And she said, that's your daughter? She said, that's my daughter. She said, okay, I want her to come over and let me see it come out of her mouth. You don't know how many times people said that to me. And she goes over there and sings for her, and she said, sign this right here. I'm taking you to Lib Hatcher right now. Lib takes her to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers gives her a developmental deal. 6 months later, they said, we don't know what to do with a black woman. And then somebody else said, some people hear with their eyes, which means, I don't care how country you are, you could be like a female Marty Brown. But if you're black, they're going to hear rhythm and blues coming out. That's the craziest thing I've heard in my life. And so she was just devastated. And so she read about us and she came, and I'm like, I don't know why. I said, I want to meet your family. And I went up there and I said, this is it. This is Mama, her mother. I got some homemade blackberry wine, blueberry wine. Do you want some? We got smokehouse. You take some ham back with you. I said, these are people nobody knows anything about. This is a demographic of people nobody knows anything about in America. They're too busy covering us killing each other with our pants hanging on our behind. But this is the wholesome, every Sunday at church, mama love family. And I said, oh my God. And it was my dream. I did everything I could to get that girl on the Opry. And I really still truly believe in Valerie. She's in her late 40s. I still believe in her. You know, she said to me, I can't write music like you can. And I said, yes, you can. You just never had nobody to encourage you. She called me one day and she said, you know, there's a funeral up here and everybody pull over to the right side of the road. You know, and she said, and we still say, yes, ma'am, no, sir, down here in the South. And she said, and everybody opens the door for you and they're kind to you. And then we care about each other. And that's what I love about the South. I said, that's your song. So she said, what are you talking about? I said, that's your song. That's what I love about the South. Go write down everything you like about the South. Will you help me do it? I'm like, Valerie, you don't need me. I'm telling you, you can do it. In the end, she's going, you help me do it, you help me do it. She wrote a song. She's got a line that says, sweet potato pie that melts in your mouth. That's what I love about the South.
Sweet potato pie that melts in your mouth. That's what I love about the South. Yes, ma'am, no, sir. Around here you still hear them words. Preachers preaching on the Holy Ghost, but your mama's prayers.
So she's recorded it. I said, Valerie, do you know what that song is worth? That's a great song.
Think she'll do it on the Opry?
We're fighting to get Valerie on the Opry. Oh my God. You gotta know what it's like to have played her music for Pete Fisher. And he said to me, you have to be good to play here. And I said, you don't hear that? She's awesome. She's been written up as the best demo singer since Trisha Yearwood. You don't hear that? He said, I just know you got to be good. I thought, no, there's something wrong in this city. This girl is as good as anybody in country music, you know. And I think it did something to her when Warner Brothers dropped her. You know, before she ever really had the chance, her friend was Daryl Singletary. Mm-hmm. And he would say to her, they haven't signed you yet? And she said, Daryl, just don't ask me no more. He said, I got a deal. Why don't you have a deal? And so, you know, she don't like to talk about it. She don't like to say, well, it's because I'm black. You know, she don't like to talk about it. But this city has a lot of growing to do, but I think it's well on its way. Never thought I'd live to see it. And the beautiful thing is today, there's a whole lot of black people who are trying to get into country music now. But I remember when they would say to me, well, we got Charlie Pride. And I said, well, what does that mean in algebra? One brother equal 30-some million people? Is that what you're telling me? I don't understand. Well, we got Charlie Pride. And then they would say, if you want to break in country music, go find Charlie Pride. I ran him all over Nashville. I bet he hated me. And I told his son, Dion, I said, if your daddy were here today, I would apologize to him. But just tell your mom the only reason I ran behind him was because that's what they told us to do. And I probably wasn't the only black person they told that.
Have you played the Opry, Frankie?
I have finally played the Opry, and I made sure Valerie was a backup singer. Last year, I didn't even believe it. I'm like, somebody called me and said, the Opry's going to give you a choice of dates to sing. I said, oh, I don't even believe that. That's a lie. And I had already been into it with Music Row because I'd written this tribute to Loretta Lynn. I said, Loretta's getting up there, y'all. We need to do a tribute. Wouldn't it be cool if all the women in country music got together and sang this song for Loretta? That's the thing I hate about having a dream and not being able to execute it, you know? And so I just said, somebody got me on a record label and they went, oh, she's irrelevant. Nobody remembers her anymore. I said, nobody remembers Loretta Lynn? I said, you let something happen to her, see what happens. And sure enough, I was playing for the return of the ice artisans that had not been to Opryland since COVID hit. And I was playing For Their Return, and a lady ran in front of the piano just screaming and crying. And I said, what's wrong with you? She said, Loretta Lynn just died. And I said, oh, man. She said, you don't understand what she meant to me. This lady was, she was very upset. I said, well, you know, she's 90 years old. She said, I don't care. She changed my life. And I said, I moved here because of her. And I said, let me play something for you. So I played her my song, and she went, whose song is that? I said, that's my song. She said, you should sing that on the Grand Ole Opry. I said, never in this life will that ever happen. And we exchanged names in social media. And I, messaged her and told her, I said, you're not going to believe it, but I'm singing that song on the opera, and I'm going to call your name out and tell our story. Well, that morning I was on WSM. And Bill Cody, I was talking about this woman running in front of the piano, screaming about Loretta. He said, we know, we had her in the radio station. We had to calm her down. She's just standing out the window just crying like a baby and everything. And I said, and they kept saying she's irrelevant. Nobody remembers her anymore. Loretta would have loved it. And they asked me, the label said, how would you do it? I said, I'd take a bunch of singers down there and sing this song. And at sunset, they would all have candles. And they'd be singing Forever Loretta. And she would have loved it.
Give us the lyric.
It says, one day I was taking it slow. Cold, sweet tea surfing the radio. When I heard the darndest thing that blew my mind. Some girl from Butcher's Holler said she was a coal miner's daughter. And if you never really listened, you ought to really listen. You should give her some time.
We'll be right back.
You ain't woman enough to take my hand. Don't come home a drinking again. Forever, forever, Loretta.
Ray Charles did Modern Sounds in Country and Western in the year 1962. Why are we still thinking of this as a novelty?
I don't know. I've often questioned how people get those jobs on Music Row. How you can have an industry that you don't want to expand. How you can call this art form American music when there are so many stories. I'm talking about victorious stories of America that you've never even heard, that you've never even dreamed of. How you can limit so many people. I mean, the Native Americans can't even sing. There were Native Americans trying to get on my showcases. We have nowhere to go. I'm like, oh, I already know.
School us a little bit. Thanks to our museum and, people like Ken Burns, we're starting to realize that some of the true roots of American country spread to places that none of us ever thought of.
Yes.
Drop some names. Unknown names.
I went up to Kentucky because I had heard about Arnold Schultz. He is considered the godfather of bluegrass. And I went up, and actually a man that used to run the newspaper there showed myself and my son around. We did a lot of filming up there. He was one of the greatest fiddle guitar player virtuosos that Kentucky's ever seen. He was an African-American man that would walk from county to county and play with different bands. All the while he's on stage, he's getting cursed out by the audience. Why you got that up there on stage with you? And the guy goes, because he's the best. He was influential in the Everly Brothers' father in teaching him how to play guitar. He was very generous in sharing his knowledge of chords and how to, go from one chord to another really fast and whatever. What bothered me about him, and still bothers me to this day, is some people just showed up at his family's house. He used to play with his family, the Schultz family band. All of them could play. They were his cousins. I would love to have seen that. They showed up at their house one day and said he died. So we buried him in the colored cemetery in Butler County. They said, what do you mean he died? They said he just died. Something was wrong with his heart. To this day, we don't know where he's buried.
Really?
But
Unmarked.
when you pull in that cemetery, there's this big, huge statue that says Arnold Schultz is buried here. A great bluegrass influencer. But you don't know where he's buried. And that's still, And so one of my friends told me he was probably poisoned because he was that awesome. And probably some jealous musician poisoned him. He always had a little jar of moonshine. Just like the man in Montgomery, Alabama, that taught Hank Williams to play, Mr. Rough A. T-Tot Payne. I haven't been down there yet. Rufus Payne was a street musician. He was like a one-man band, and all the children followed him around. But Hank stayed with him. I guess he just went through his soul, that music, like I hear music. And so he said, Mama, I want that man to teach me to play. And so Hank Williams' mother traded. You come over here, I'll cook dinner for you. You give my son a guitar lesson. And I am such a Hank Williams aficionado because he's a genius songwriter.
Yeah.
His catalog, his music will never die. And to think that he created that body of work and was just 29 years old, and he wrote all those songs before, it just blows my mind. I mean, he was just a genius.
And I'm sure you've heard Emmett Miller, whose singing and phrasing was definitely lifted by Hank Williams.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You listen to those recordings from the 20s, and that's the sound he adopted.
Yeah, and DeFord Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
Who had polio as a child. He's from Smith County, Tennessee, and would lay in the bed, and he was just so bored, so they gave him a harmonica. And he would try to replicate the sounds of the trains that came by, and then he tried to replicate all the animals that he heard. And that's how he developed his sound, and was actually the very first person to ever perform on the Grand Ole Opry.
Right down the way, he now has a street named after him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
So here we are now, and everyone's making noise about Beyonce's country debut.
I love it.
Do you? What's good about it, in your eye, to your ear?
Oh, what I like about the promotion of it is that for every black person that was stopped in this city, dead in their tracks, you got a 32-time Grammy-winning diva that's loved worldwide. You can't stop her. You can keep her out of anything CMA if you want to. You can keep her out of Nashville. She just took country music to the world. I was in the Green Hills Mall about a month and a half ago. It's a store in there called Freebird. They got these beautiful boots. I saw 20 black women in there buying boots. I said, that's Beyonce. She has single-handedly added so much profit to jeans and Western clothes and hats. And I'm like, Nashville, y'all need to take notice of this right here. So, now what I would love to see happen is and I am proud of the fact that people like Rhiannon Giddens, Raina Roberts, Brittany Spencer, all of them got to sing on that album, Willie Jones. But if she really wants to make a real impact, come down here and start singing with some of these people in the Black Opry. Open some doors for them. Let them be your opening act on your tour. If you really want to make an impact in country music, shift the lives of those that's been here trying forever to get heard. Listen to their songs. Sing some of their music. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot of ways you can make an impact, but that's the best way.
Good idea. That's the promoter in you, Frankie.
There's
You're
a
already
girl-
thinking.
There's a girl named Roberta Lee in the Black Opera's got a song. She says, if I'm too much of a woman, you're too little of a man. Booyah! Beyonce need to sing that song. And so I ran into her. I said, Roberta Lee, did you see me put it all over the line that Beyonce needs to sing your song? She said, you said that about me? Oh, Miss Frankie, thank you so much. But, you know, I mean, that's how you shift it. That's how you change the dynamic of it.
My guest is Frankie Staton. We'll be right back. Frankie's got to be short for something.
Frankie Lynn Staton, Staton.
Not Francesca or something fancier?
All right, here we go. My mother came up with the beautiful French names, but she did not give me one. My sister's name is Journée Monique. My brother's name is Ramon DeVry. My name is the plow name, Frankie Lynn. So I said, Mother, why didn't you come up with a Parlez-vous Français Eiffel Tower Beaujolais Croissant named for the one and only chocolate cowgirl? And she said, well, you just look like a little Frankie. I said, what, a man?
I'm going to circle around chocolate cowgirl. Is that your self-proclaimed?
No.
Who gave you that? And do you like it? Is it offensive in any way?
I don't even care no more. When I would go to jam sessions, they had to have a name for me, like Stockyard. You know, when Donna Mead was singing that, I'd go, Jim Vest, oh, that's Dolly Pride. I'm like, okay, there's a chocolate cowgirl. There's brown sugar. They just had a name for me. I said, my name is Frankie Staton, but if you want to call me them names, okay, I don't care. But they always had to tag me with some. So it was coming at me from a lot of different ways. Like, you know, I'd play my music for publishers, and they said, well, first of all, I don't believe you can write a song like that. So I said, you believe I brought you somebody else's music? I got the copyright right here in my hand. I don't believe you can write a song like that, a country song like that. I had a song I really wanted Tammy Wynette to sing called Leading the Lady. And see, other than hearing music all day and all night in my head, I could hear who should sing what song.
You were an A&R girl,
so I could have been a plugger.
Yep.
I could have been a plugger. And I had songwriters that worked at Opryland that begged me, Frankie, go plug for me, girl. You can hear. You know, and you can sing it with no music. And I can hear the music. And I thought, why is everybody not like that in these positions on Music Row?
How do you list it? Are you a writer, performer, singer, player? What's the order in your mind?
I'm a pianist, a songwriter, a vocalist, and a storyteller with a little bit of comedy in it.
But it all started with the piano.
Started with the piano, that's right.
Does Frankie rap? Does Frankie like hip-hop?
I'm not a rapper. I do like some clean hip-hop. But I'm going to tell you something. The country music industry don't even know what a ride they in for now. But I said it 30 years ago. I said, boy, if we get into country music and blend all these different influences together, it's no telling what we'll come up with. And I thought, they're gonna ride that train and keep us out as long as they can. But when that door opens up, it's gonna be wonderful. I never thought I'd live to see it. And CMT invited me to the Charlie Pride Giant Show. So I went, took Valerie, took my son. We were sitting there, you know, and I thought, well, I see some black people in here. Look at this, you know, that's cool. And then when it was over with, everybody was introducing themselves. And I said, my name is Frankie Staton. And people just started yelling. I'm like, they said, it's an honor to meet you. I said, why? They said, you stood up before anybody. You're the mother of our movement. I said, I am. Thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that. They said, oh, no, ma'am, you're bold. We've been reading about you for years. You're a hell raiser. I said, no, I just stood up for what I believed in. I just wanted access to an industry that denied me and everybody. And, you know, like Shannon Sanders at BMI, I said to him, Shannon, what did they do to you? He said, told me if I didn't get out their offices, they'd call the police on me. I said, I already knew that. I knew it was going on. I just didn't know how I knew it. I knew it was happening. Now, I moved here in 1981. And there were so many instances of discrimination in my life that it's a wonder that I could have stayed. But, you know, like, you know, I would go to jam sessions. I'd be the first one to sign up. They wouldn't get me up. So the place that I really wanted to perform at was the Captain's Table in Printer's Alley. Mm-hmm. I'd pass by there, and I kept seeing that Sammy Davis Jr. had performed there. So I'm a Rat Pat aficionado, and I'm like, Sammy the Candyman, Sammy Davis. Okay, I'm gonna get really clean. I'm coming down here in my evening gown. I'm going in the Captain's Table, and so I did, you know, I come down Church Street. I had it all planned out, you know, I'm dressed up in my gown, my fake rhinestones. I'm coming down Church Street, and the cop grabbed me. So I said, he said, well, what are you doing? I said, but now since I look back at it, okay, it does sound crazy, right? 1981, I'm walking down Church Street in my evening gown, and the cop says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the Captain's Table. He said, to do what? I said, I'm singing Loretta. So this is a black woman with a big afro. And he's like, oh, really? You singing Loretta? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm coming too. I said, you want to hear it? Well, come on. So my entree into the jam session was with the police.
A police escort.
Yes.
In the wrong way.
Yeah. And so I said, I'm here for the jam session. And, you know, they're kind of looking at me like I'm crazy. And so they said, well, you sign up over there. And so I first one to sign up, 11:30 at night. Jam session started at midnight, right? Okay, I heard the police tell them, if you have any problems out of her, call us. I'm like, I wonder why they think they're going to have problems out of me. I'm just here for the music. Tour buses back then would come to town. Everybody wanted a picture on stage in Nashville. So I would sit there, and they'd get a whole busload of people up to sing, wouldn't get me up. I said, I ain't leaving. I'm staying right in this seat till Jesus Christ come back. I'm not leaving. If it has to be a sunrise service up in this puppy, I ain't leaving here tonight. No, not after I done got dressed up and came down. No, I'm not leaving. So I just sit there. 2:30 in the morning. And I had to be on my day job at 4:30. And so they said, we never seen this woman before. Never heard of her. But this is a jam session open to the public. So she can come up here and sing a song. Her name is Frankie Staton. I said, my name is Frankie Staton. So I go up there. I said, I'm doing Coal Miner's Daughter in the key of D. That's the key of the record. And they said, you know keys? I said, I know that's the key that record's in. And so I turn around and tell the audience, I was ignorant enough to move out here from the great state of North Carolina because I love Loretta, Lynn, so I'm going to do the song right here, Coal Miner's Daughter. So, you know, so I did it, and so they were like, sing another one. I'm like, another one? They said, sing another song. I said, well, I'll do a song by my sister by another mother, Miss Dolly Parton. So I'm doing 9 to 5, and the place just going crazy. Everybody's singing along, and all of a sudden somebody comes in here, here's a $50 bill from the mayor of Nashville. I said, where is the mayor out 3 o'clock in the morning? Show me a mayor. He raised his hand. I'm like, you're not the mayor. You're just drunk. You had a good steak and some good liquor, and you're just drunk. You're not the mayor. I'm looking at TV next day. Mayor Richard Fulton. I said, oh, my God, that's the mayor. And they called me. When I left, they said, do you have any contact information? I gave them my card. They called me. They said, can you come back down here tonight? I said, you know I'm not a hooker. They said, yeah, we know you ain't no hooker. We know you're not. So I go back. I want you to get them and sing again. I said, well, why don't I just play a song first? They said, you can play. So I can play the piano. And I sat down and played some music, and they went, they need a piano player in the brass rail.
Wow, yeah.
And they called him and said, come hear this woman. So then they said, can you come over here tomorrow night? So I got the job. First night I played, this guy walks in the door. And I was like, he said, why are you looking at me like that? I said, you look like Clint Eastwood. He said, I am Clint Eastwood. I said, oh, you made cowboys real. And so he was just, he was like, I respect what you do. I didn't know that he was a jazz pianist. He wrote the music for the bridges of Madison County. Clint is the man. So my point here is, suppose I would have got mad and left.
Right. The opportunity would have never come.
Sometimes, in the face of everything, you have to stay. Whether you want to stay where you feel comfortable staying, you have to stay. And that led me to my first real gig in Nashville. I was in a television show out of Zurich, Switzerland, about 2017, 2018. You might have heard of a show called Jill's Veranda. And she's a country singer as well. And she comes over here. This is again about the narrative. Oh, well, Nashville doesn't have a black woman. Mickey Guyton's been on the label 8 years. She's not a star, whatever. And so I said, Jill, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that it won't. And she said, yeah, but I said, no. You don't understand the trajectory of my life and the life of the black race. We're so used to just tarrying along and failing and starting over again and failing and starting over and pushing a little bit further and pushing a little bit further, then it happens. I said, there will be black women in country music. She just couldn't see it. She didn't see how it could ever happen. And now, I've messaged her 4 or 5 times. Well, Jill, what are you saying about it now? You heard of Yola out of Bristol, England? You heard of Brittany Spencer? She won't respond. I told her it was coming.
So you're happy. You see victory. This is
I see this city go from when I got here being looked at like I was completely crazy to literally seeing black people walk the red carpet at the CMA Awards, at the ACMs the other night, to seeing Michael and Tanya, the War and Treaty, it's their 3rd nomination for something, Duo of the Year, 3rd time. And they were homeless, and they have gotten into that company, right? And to see all of those people go to Dallas, Reese Palmer with her Color Me Country show, but to them, they probably feel like, well, this is not enough. But from where I stand, they don't even understand how much further they've pushed the needle. So I celebrate with them and just tell them to keep going. But you're doing great. And for me to be, I've stood in front of the wallpaper, for Amazon when they released For Love and Country, and for the Hulu show, 50 Years of Fanfare. I've been around all of that. And so to see it and to be recognized is wonderful. They say, we're giving you your flowers now. I'm like, well, I ain't going nowhere, so you're going to be giving me a whole lot of flowers, okay? But to see it happen and to see these people respected and to see, like, playing on Beyonce's album, and it's just wonderful. We got a long way to go, but we've come a long ways.
Banner and Company is a production of the New Nashville Banner. Our producers are Steve Haruch and Andrea Tudhope. Original music by Verlin Thompson. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. One last question, and you're going to pick it. Pick a little piece of paper out of there. Give us an answer. And who's it from?
Joe Roebuck.
John Roebuck.
Okay, it says, if you have changed any stake in the ground from your faith perspective.
From your faith perspective, what you once believed and now maybe you believe differently. What would that change in belief be, and what got you to that point?
You know, I don't know that I've changed that much. I'm just different. The industry is an industry of a lot of narcissism, a lot of me. And of everything I've ever done in my life, my proudest moment is that I was willing to share my stage with somebody else and to try to create opportunities for them. But I understand that coming through this world is not just about me. It's about other people as well. And the beautiful thing is I was a single mother. I had to lay my music down for a while. My son is a graduate of Montgomery Bell Academy. He went to Stanford University, and he graduated ultimately from Tennessee State because I said, you're going to kill me, with a degree in business, and I had to put my child first before my music. That's what stopped me from having the showcases. I knew that someday Nashville would say she's lying, she didn't have good talent, so I filmed everything. So I have a record of my efforts. But I've not changed a lot in my belief. I believe in treating people the way I want to be treated. I believe in trying to inspire and motivate other people. You know, give them a nod, you know, hey, job well done, you can do this. There's just not been a lot that's changed about me. I'm just the same girl that I was, still love the music, still got the dream, still crazy about what I'm hearing in my head in the middle of the night, still excited about brilliant songwriters, and just touching the world. And I mean, that happens to me a lot. I mean, my gifts are natural, but people will come up to me and say, do they understand what a gift you are to this hotel? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. They probably don't even care. But that means something to me. So there's not a lot that's changed in my life. You know, I'm still that little old girl that was a dishwasher in North Carolina. I'm very grateful for anything that happens to me. I'm very, very grateful. You know, a lot of people just take it and move on with what else, you know, but I savor every moment.